Hello, I'm John Furrier with theCUBE. We're here with the AWS Marketplace Series with theCUBE. I'm your host. We're here with Dimitri Vlachos, who's the CMO of Spacelift. Dimitri, great to see you. Thanks for coming on this AWS Marketplace Series special. You guys are a big partner and doing great. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome, John. Great to be here.
You know, you guys have really are well positioned as the AI native infrastructure platform for orchestrating enterprise infrastructure operations. You got recent success expanding the platform around intelligence, which is the AI piece, provisioning, infrastructure. AI governed infrastructure workloads are really what everyone's talking about as they prepare for the agentic engineering, the agentic layer that's going to really enable to build on the cloud native. You guys have gone beyond just the cloud native infrastructure to much more broader orchestration, operational automation, platform engineering that is driving a new build out. Okay, so I want to get into the marketplace piece, but more importantly, the operating and the automating is great, but there's a whole build factor going on. The AI engineers are enabling the new AI native developers to build and operate and automate. So this is a very much big focus conversation. Tell us what you're seeing, because this is where you guys are hitting the sweet spot right now.
Yeah, so I think we're seeing a couple of macro things. One, very pointedly, you talk about AI and adoption, move to agentic. When I step back and look at where is AI, the disruption and kind of infrastructure and applications been hit the most, it's really developers was phase one. The speed at which developers are adopting AI to assist with their coding has been, I think, probably the fastest adoption I've seen in my life, and that has direct ripple down effects into infrastructure. And I think the infrastructure teams, understandably, they're dealing with a lot more criticality, regulations, governance that they need to put into place. So they're feeling the pressure of the speed from the acceleration of developers, and yet they're feeling also, how do I actually govern this at the same time? So it's this dynamic between speed and control that they've always been battling, but it's become even more of an issue right now. So that's what we're seeing a lot of. And to your agentic point, I think that's going to come much faster in terms of a second wave of AI, where being able to bring AI right into your infrastructure workloads and your pipelines, and the governance to back that up, I think that's going to be a key challenge for platform teams.
I'm really glad you brought the coding piece, because that's one major driver, but also the fact that all these experiments are causing a lot of sprawl as well is also putting a lot of pressure. So you got the velocity going on, and that's putting pressure on the ops. So there's a lot of discussion around unification, single orchestration layer. What's your view on this? Because this is going to impact the workflows, which is running on the cloud. It's platform engineering meets, velocity and sprawl.
So our view is you really kind of need two paths, if you will. So if you look back historically, like CI/CD was, I would say, the last big change in development, right? You continuous integration to delivery, and the response to that from the infrastructure side was infrastructure as code. And it was great. You treat your infrastructure more like code. You've got these pipelines to deal with it. It has some great structure, rigidity, yet it can move pretty quickly. And now with AI, it's like, well, can you put every workload, every workflow for deployment, does it really fit in an IaC GitOps workflow anymore? And we believe that you need to keep IaC and GitOps for production and those types of key workflows that need to be highly reliable, and there's got to be a lot of rigor there. But then there's a lot of experimentation. The other thing that's interesting with AI developers and AI developed code is it's a much more iterative process. So you develop, go out, you iterate, and so your pipelines need to take that into account. So the ability, well, we believe there's a two-path deployment model. One is GitOps, the other is more AI assisted. And so rather than going through all the rigor of having to develop infrastructure code, whether it's Terraform or OpenTofu, you can bypass that, go right into your cloud infrastructure, for example, AWS. And we've developed a method of deployment that basically is, we offer an MCP server, and your AI can connect to their MCP server, and we go right to the actual cloud providers and don't have to go this intermediary of code, which slows a lot of things down. So now you have one path where you can go very quickly, and we see a lot of people using that for experimentation, for non-production deployments, and when they're ready, and they've tuned that and got really to the point where they want to be for production, they can then promote that into a more traditional IaC and GitOps pipeline. So that's what we're looking at, of how can you have the ability to have governance and policy control over both of those, so developers can experiment, go very quickly, but you as a platform, a DevOps team, have the control you need when you need it. So that's one of the big things we're seeing as a response to how can you keep pace with the speed of development that's been accelerated by AI, and yet maintain the control you need to as a platform, a DevOps team.
The term stitching things together has always been bantered around. I think that just symbolizes what people do, right? They put things together. Composability is one of the benefits these marketplaces have. AWS Marketplace is great. People are using it. They come in and they have needs. They put the solutions together, and they want to do it fast. So I want to get your thoughts on how your customers are using the marketplace, how they derive value from it. Their time's important, but they're also building a generational decision and trying to manage ops in the short, medium, and long term. How are customers using the marketplace with you guys, and how are they getting the value from it specifically?
So there's a couple of ways. One, of course, is the ease of purchase and execution of contracts. When you want to purchase through AWS, it goes right into agreements you already have. It's pretty much one click, even for large enterprise software, which is a huge benefit, right? There's definitely especially larger accounts, procurement can take as long as the rest of the process. So AWS makes that simple, not only for vendors, but also for the customer procuring. So that's one. Two, certainly the ability to have partners that really understand, and if you're already using a partner or a provider to help run your infrastructure, they're very familiar with AWS, we can work with them as well. So it's both transactional, but also operational benefits you see with AWS for sure.
If I'm a customer, I'm watching this video, what's my pain point? What's going through my mind right now? IT has always been brittle, but cloud native hardened that. But then as it gets more complex, the complexity problem never goes away. We've seen that in certainly with AI, but there's now new tools to get there. So you guys are going to be fitting that bill. What's the customer's mindset right now? And how should they be thinking about the marketplace? Is it to patch the brittle scripts, put glue between Terraform, Kubernetes, and security and governance? What are the specific things they will do in the marketplace?
So I think there's a couple things we find customers coming to us for, right? One is, hey, to your point, it's still interesting to think, even now in 2026, there's a lot of people who are still beginning migrations to the cloud, right? And I think it's very easy to lose that when you live in the cloud world so much, but there's plenty of large organizations that have business critical applications that have been running on premises for a long time. They're starting to move them. So I'm going to walk you through kind of three different types of customers maybe that we run into in terms of the challenges they have. One might be someone who's just really starting down their cloud infrastructure journey, and they've started to have, okay, I'm getting the hang of this, but now they really need to scale it, and they need to centralize how they're managing all their deployment of infrastructure. And if they don't do that well, you have major issues with visibility, with control, with reliability, even with cost, right? Because you don't get the central view of what's happening. So that's one type of customer who is kind of early in their cloud journey, will come to us and say, I'm starting down this path of using IaC. I realizing doing it one-off, non-centralized, I don't have the governance or the control I need. And they'll come to us and deploy Spacelift. And now they've got a really integrated way to manage all their cloud infrastructure deployments. So that's one type of customer. Another type of customer is someone who's, they've scaled pretty fast. They might be using a more traditional CI/CD tool to try to manage their infrastructure code. And that will work a little, but then when they really start to scale, they run into some major walls of complexity and having to essentially maintain their own code. And they'll come to us, and we basically, move them from a rather build it yourself, hashtag very complex way of managing that infrastructure to a streamlined, purpose-built platform that manages all your infrastructure as code for you. And then thirdly, I think we have people who are running pretty advanced operations, but they are struggling with just what you're talking about. Hey, now the developers we have are accelerating so much quicker with AI. How am I going to keep pace? How do I keep my traditional IaC and GitOps workflows up and running? But how do I now add more, use AI intelligently within my infrastructure, within my platform teams to manage my infrastructure to really keep pace with AI-based development? Those are, I think, the three high-level use cases we see people coming in with.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Dimitri. Appreciate it.
Yep.
One of the North Stars we always talk about on theCUBE and certainly at the events and talking to the experts, the practitioners is the North Star is I want production workloads at scale. But now with AI, you can get there, this outcome they can get. So tell us about the process for onboarding the product. How do your customers move that into production? Take us through what happens next. I'm in the marketplace, I'm procuring, I'm integrating. What's the process for onboarding and how do I move that into production?
Sure. So it's pretty easy to kind of bring us and onboard us. And there's, I say, 2 or 3 phases depending on how large your infrastructure is. Most people, if you're using, OpenTofu or Terraform, right, you've got your state files. That's the way you kind of track what's been deployed via infrastructure as code. And we're able to take that state file, bring it into our platform, and pretty much we're up and running. I mean, that part is very easy to take over what's been deployed, what's being managed by IaC already, and take that over. So that's one piece. But a lot of times, back to the governance piece we were talking about, I think one thing I was shocked by early on when I was, as I got into Spacelift, is that you have pretty large organizations where they want to do drift detection, right? They want to be able to detect when infrastructure is changing in ways they did not intend. They want to have policies in place, to your shift left comment. How do you bring policy controls closer and closer to, before deployment that you can? But you'd be surprised at how many people are getting their infrastructure orchestration up and running and their policies are not really being used. So that to me is really phase 2. And that's a little less of onboarding Spacelift as much as advancing your infrastructure program. What are the policies I want to bring in for governance? How am I going to enforce those? Where do I want drift detection? And do I want to respond to it and address it automatically, or do you want to be notified and decide what to do? So that's the second part, which is less about onboarding our platform, but more about advancing your platform operations or your DevOps operations once you've got us onboarded.
Give us a taste of the scope of the migration, deployment and migrations. How many weeks, days? What's the aggressive view? What's the kind of the normal
Yeah, I'd say
workflow?
the aggressive view for, some shops is a matter of days. For others, it could be, weeks in terms of depending on how much infrastructure you want to switch over. A lot of times people will do it by different types of, hey, I've got this cloud infrastructure in one region or by application. So it kind of depends on the scale and how you want to operationally move it. It's what I'd say there. So usually it's, it can be a week to a few weeks, depending on the type of scale of infrastructure and how you want to operationally move it over.
That's awesome. Dimitri, let's see it in action. Show us the demo. I want to see what you guys got.
Great. So I'm going to take you, John, through a couple of quick scenarios. One is really about visibility, and we've been talking about AI and how our infrastructure assistant can help you really understand your infrastructure that's been deployed. I'm then going to take you through how you can deploy new infrastructure, both in the traditional IaC and GitOps way, and then with AI. And so that's what I'm going to show you, okay? So if we go here, you'll see this is an example of where we're now in our infrastructure assistant within our product. And I've asked it, which of my deployed environments have S3 buckets as an example. So this is an AWS environment. And you can see here, just chatting with your infrastructure. Oh, here are 2 stacks, and stacks is a kind of a construct of infrastructure related to a given project application. And you can see here, these are projects that have, or stacks that have S3 buckets. So now I'm going to ask it, hey, do any of these buckets have any common vulnerabilities, which is a common question you might want to ask. And here you can see as you'll get the answers, right? And so here's some types of visibility resources and the vulnerabilities they have. Some don't have bucket policies, some are unencrypted. What's good? Well, here's some good stuff. You do have server side. So that's one view of kind of, that's one view of how you can get visibility out of our infrastructure assistant. And that's a major use case people are very interested in, to be able to ask questions of their infrastructure. Now I'm going to show you, we talked about traditional IaC and GitOps workflows, which is the way a lot of people have been doing IaC for years, and we support all that. So I'm going to show you example here. This is our Stacks interface that manages your deployments. This is someone going into their GitHub, and they're making a change to their infrastructure, and they're confirming that merge. They're going to merge that request back in. And so that's what they do on the code side. And then Spacelift, we get triggered, and we get notified. We automatically take that. We'll run policy checks. So we're preparing to deploy that. This is your standard kind of IaC and Terraform workflow. So now we're doing our planning, and we're making sure that everything's going to be okay. We're then applying that change. We have policy checks in place so you can make sure everything's compliant. And now you can see we're finished. So that's doing it kind of traditional GitOps way. Now, I want to deploy right from Spacelift, and you can see we have policies in place to protect S3 buckets. You can see in this project, we have no resources deployed. I'm going into the infrastructure assistant again, and I'm going to ask it, please build me an S3 bucket. I'm going to give it a name. And so this is kind of, a way to go do this. And now I hit submit, and sure enough, right from here, I don't have to know anything. I don't have to write any code. It is deploying this all for me. It's making sure it meets all the best practices and policies we've put in place. And boom, you have this S3 bucket. You got infrastructure deployed for you, and you can see all the definitions and state associated with it. So I want to show now this same workflow, but a lot of times developers or platform teams or DevOps want to use their own LLM. They don't want necessarily have to come into Spacelift. So here I'm just showing you again this same environment, but now I'm going to go into my LLM of choice, Claude in this case, and I'm going to ask through Claude, and this is connected to Spacelift via our MCP server. I'm going to ask it to actually deploy the same, S3. I'm going to ask it to deploy an S3 bucket as well. So I'm doing this right from my own workflow. I don't have to even go into Spacelift. And boom, you can see because of our MCP integration, this is getting deployed now. And it's the same policy enforcement and governance that you've put in place behind the scenes is implemented here as well. So you're getting the ability to use natural language, do it from your own LLM, and yet it's all protected as you would want in terms of governance and policies. And you can see in the screen behind there, right in Spacelift, you can see the resources being deployed.
That's awesome.
So hopefully that gives you a sense, John. I know it's technical and in the weeds a little, but it gives you a sense of both how traditional pipelines can be managed with Spacelift and how we're really putting AI front and center into the product to make it easy for customers to get visibility and understand and intelligence around their infrastructure, as well as deploy infrastructure.
That's awesome, Dimitri. That really highlights the natural language provisioning, the infrastructure assistant, but also to me, the AI governed infrastructure workloads, which is now the new element that's critical for the agent wave coming, right? So it's,
yes.
It felt a lot like, hey, platform engineering, but yet now you're cross tools, right? Your multi-tool environments can happen without a lot of complexity. I can do Git, I can do Spacelift, I can use Claude.
Correct. And by the way, the parts we didn't talk about too is, there's many different types of flavors of infrastructure provisioning languages you can use. You can use OpenTofu. You can use, Terraform. You can use Ansible. There's all, and we support all of them. So in CloudFormation, right? And AWS has their own. So CloudFormation, you can do all this with CloudFormation as well. So, and it really, we abstract that for you, which is the beautiful part as well.
Well, I really appreciate it. And again, the AWS Marketplace has been a great, win for the industry, getting stuff fast, streamlining the procurement cycles, getting stuff into production fast. I have to ask you on a personal level, also at Spacelift, you guys have been doing all the hard work for years on this. The ease of use has always been the focus, right? So getting it simple and easy to use is the goal. Now the capabilities are expanding very rapidly in what you can do. The superpowers are amazing, but with that comes complexity. Just your thoughts on the usability piece, the ease of use, because that's the end game. I mean, North Star in production at scale, but it's got to be easy to use for devs and engineers.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of interesting answers to that, right? One, a lot of people, when they hear that question, you think of, well, how easy is a UI to use and how intuitive is it and how discoverable is it, which is critical. And customers will tell you Spacelift, people love Spacelift as a product. If you go, you look on Reddit, you look at, you'll see very quickly people love Spacelift. But, and certainly our UI is intuitive and useful, but we also have a lot of people who don't want to use the UI when it comes to production. And so ease of use doesn't just mean your UI, it means, can you integrate this into your operational workflow? And so the ability to integrate with tools and trigger on the triggers that they have, or the ability to use AI and to use an MCP server, right? So, I mean, that's really when usability, it's not just about the UI, it's about how well you integrate with other tools. And that's been a foundational principle of Spacelift from the very beginning, absolutely.
Well, I really appreciate the AWS Marketplace Series is amazing. And I think that demo and the commentary show that not only is it going to be easy for developers and AI builders that are developers, it's going to usher in the AI builder persona that's going to be business people who are going to have that abstraction. So Dimitri, thank you so much for coming on and being a highlight of the Marketplace Series for AWS.
Well, thank you, John. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
All right. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE, the AWS Marketplace Series. Check out all these solutions. You want to compose the enterprise. Business transformation is going to be driven by platform engineering, the AI builders, all coming to the table super fast, high velocity, a lot of value to be created. Thanks for watching.